The quiet moment before everything began. The theater was almost empty when Anna walked in. She had slipped in through the side entrance, wearing a plain black hoodie pulled low over her head. She didn't want the flashing cameras tonight. She didn't want the pressure of smiling when she didn't feel like it. It had been a long week, filled with endless interviews, rehearsals, and people asking her the same questions over and over. All she wanted was a quiet evening, a moment to breathe, and maybe to remember why she loved this work in the first place. Keanu was already there, sitting near the back, his long legs stretched out, his posture relaxed, but his eyes focused on the stage. The lights were dim, the air smelled faintly of dust and old wood, and there was a calm in the room that felt almost out of place compared to the noisy city outside. Anna noticed him before he noticed her. She hesitated for a second, wondering if she should sit far away. They had met before, briefly, during a charity event. He had been kind, quiet, and attentive, listening more than talking, a rare thing in this business. She remembered that about him, but tonight felt different. There was no crowd, no microphones, no reason to pretend. She walked up the aisle and sat a few seats away from him. He glanced at her, gave a small nod, and then returned his gaze to the stage. "You like rehearsals?" she asked softly after a few minutes. He turned his head and gave a half smile. "Sometimes more than the real thing. You see the flaws, the effort, the raw parts. It's honest." Anna thought about that. Honesty wasn't something she saw much in her world lately. Everything was polished and planned. She liked that he saw beauty in the rough edges. For a while, they just sat there, watching the stagehands adjust the lights, hearing the quiet murmurs of the actors warming up. Then Anna noticed something: an older man in the front row, wearing a worn jacket, sitting perfectly still. He looked tired, maybe even unwell. She saw the way his hands trembled slightly, the way he kept glancing at the stage like it meant something important to him. When the rehearsal ended, most people left quickly, but the man stayed seated. Anna and Keanu exchanged a look. "Do you know him?" she asked. Keanu shook his head. "But I think we should." They walked down together, slow steps on the creaking wooden floor. The man looked up when they reached him, his eyes wide with surprise. He seemed unsure whether to smile or hide his face. "Sir, are you all right?" Keanu asked gently. The man nodded, but his voice cracked when he spoke. "My granddaughter is performing tomorrow. She doesn't know I'm here tonight. I wanted to see if she'd be okay. She's been through a lot." Anna felt something shift inside her. She didn't know why, but the way he said it, like every breath of his was carrying hope, made her want to do something. "What's her name?" she asked. "Isla," he said softly. Keanu glanced at Anna, and she understood without words. There was kindness in his eyes, but also a quiet determination. It wasn't about making a scene. It wasn't about being celebrities. It was about making sure this man's hope didn't break before tomorrow, and neither of them knew it yet. But this small decision to stop, to care, to listen would lead to something far bigger than either of them could imagine. That night, as they left the theater together, Anna thought about how moments like this never made headlines, but maybe they should. A small promise turns into a big night hook. Came fast the next day. The theater manager walked down the aisle with a sharp look and a clipboard in his hand. He spoke to the old man in a firm voice that carried across the empty seats. He said, the open rehearsal for families had strict rules. He said only one guardian per performer was allowed. The old man nodded and tried to explain that someone had promised him a seat, but he could not remember the name. His hands shook a little. He reached into his pocket for the paper that held his granddaughter's performance time. The paper slipped to the floor. People turned their heads. The moment felt heavy, like a small stone falling into still water and making a wide circle. Anna was 3 rows back when it happened. She stood at once and picked up the paper. She read it. She did not speak right away. Then she looked at the manager and said in a calm voice that she believed there had been a mix-up. She said the old man only wanted to sit quietly. She said she would sit with him and make sure he did not disturb anyone. Her voice was steady and warm. It was not a demand. It was a promise. Keanu stepped beside them. He did not raise his voice. He asked the manager for kindness. He said that rehearsals teach more than lines and cues. They also teach how to treat people. He said he would take responsibility if anything went wrong. He offered his own seat, even though seating was not the real issue. The manager looked at them, looked at the old man, then clicked his pen shut and walked away. He said to keep it quiet and to follow the rules. He said the performance must start on time. The old man breathed out. He thanked them. His name was Alvaro. Close up, his eyes were bright, but the skin under them was tired. He had the look of someone who had carried heavy news for a long time and learned to smile anyway. He told them a little about Isla. She was 13. She loved to dance. She had learned from videos because classes were too expensive. A teacher at school had seen her practicing in a hallway and told her about this community performance. She had worked hard for a month. Alvaro had not told her he was coming to the rehearsal because he wanted her to focus. He wanted to surprise her on the real night. As the stage lights warmed up, a small group of performers gathered at the wings. Children adjusted costumes. Parents fumbled with hairpins. A boy told jokes that were not funny, but made everyone smile. The air was full of small nerves and soft hope. Then a whisper went through the room. Something had happened with the lights. A fuse or a switch, or a piece with a hard name. The stage went dim. The manager rubbed his head. A tech crew member ran to the back. A few parents complained. The children looked scared. Someone said the rehearsal might be delayed or canceled. Anna felt a knot in her chest. She looked at Alvaro. She thought of Isla practicing in a hallway. She thought of the night before, the quiet space, and the gentle conversation. She did not want hope to break. Keanu had already moved. He walked to the tech desk and asked if he could help carry, or hold, or check. He did not act like a star. He acted like a person who knows that two hands can lift more than one. A young technician showed him the dimmer rack. Another showed him a cable that had a loose end. No one asked him to fix anything because that was not his job. But they let him follow, and in that small permission, pressure eased. Anna went another way. She found the stage manager and asked if the children could practice their steps in the aisles while they waited. She said it would keep their bodies warm and their minds busy. The manager thought about safety and then agreed. Anna put her hoodie on the back of a chair and clapped her hands once. She told the kids to pick a small lane and move in slow counts. She kept her voice light. She praised good posture. She smiled at mistakes and called them discoveries. The room changed shape. The fear turned into rhythm. The cold turned into breath. A girl with a bright yellow ribbon and nervous hands kept losing her balance on a turn. Anna walked over and asked if she could try a simple change. She showed a smaller step into the spin. The girl tried it. It worked. Her face opened. She laughed. The sound lifted the whole row. Alvaro watched from his seat. His head was down, but his eyes were up. He held the folded paper in one hand. He rolled the edge of it with his thumb, not out of impatience, but to keep from crying. When Anna caught his eye, he nodded once, like a quiet thank you that held all the words he could not say. Then came the second hook. A woman hurried into the theater, breathless and worried. She wore a volunteer badge. She asked for Alvaro. She said the school had called her because they could not reach him. She said Isla had left a class early and never made it to the meeting point. She might be fine. She might be scared. She might be walking alone to the theater. The streets were busy. The time was short. The room changed temperature. The manager spoke into a radio. A volunteer checked the hallway. Another called the teacher again. Alvaro stood up fast and swayed, as if his legs had been asleep. He said he knew the route Isla liked to take. He was ready to go. Anna stepped forward. She told the manager that she and Keanu would go with Alvaro to look. The manager hesitated. Leaving the theater was not part of the plan. Rehearsal was still broken and needed hands. But the tech lead raised a hand and said they had found the issue and needed 10 minutes more. He said they would call if they needed help. The manager nodded. The choice was made. They moved through the city in 3 quick lines. Alvaro led, but not too fast. Anna kept beside him and asked simple questions that could help. Where did I like to stop for water? Which streets made her feel safe? Did she carry a phone? Did she respond to calls when she was nervous? The questions were light, not accusatory. They gave Alvaro a task while he walked. They gave his worry a rhythm. Keanu checked each crosswalk and scanned the bus stops. He looked for yellow because of the ribbon. He looked for a small figure near store windows. He looked for a child who was trying to be brave and was not sure how to ask for help. They turned a corner and saw a small dance bag on a bench. It was gray with a pink zipper. The zipper was open. A water bottle sat beside it, half full. There was a scuff mark on the bench. There was also a folded piece of paper under the bottle to keep it from rolling. Keanu picked up the paper. It was a bus schedule. A red circle was around a route number. A time was underlined. It was 5 minutes ago. Alvaro's mouth tightened. He knew that bus. It took a line that curved around the park and then returned near the theater on the other side. He said Isla sometimes took that path because she liked the trees, he said. She felt brave when she made a loop and came back. He also said the park had a corner where the street got loud and the sidewalk got narrow. He said he did not like that corner. They moved faster. The park was green and kind, but the far corner was not. Vendors shouted. Scooters buzzed past without warning. A bus hissed and pulled away. A little crowd gathered around a noise that no one could place. It was not a scream. It was not a crash. It was something in between, like the sharp cry of metal on stone. Then they saw what had happened. A delivery bicycle had tipped over near the curb. A crate of bottles had fallen and clinked into pieces. A man was trying to pick them up while apologizing to a street vendor. A girl with a yellow ribbon stood frozen near the mess. Her shoes were wet. Her hands were shaking in front of her chest. She was not hurt, but she was stuck in the moment, as if fear had poured over her feet and turned into glue. Anna reached her first. She did not run up and shout. She came near and crouched, to make her body small and safe. She said the girl's name softly. Isla looked at her and blinked, like waking up. Keanu stepped to the edge of the mess and helped the delivery man stand the bike. Alvaro took a long breath, because his voice would break if he spoke too soon. You are okay, Anna said to Isla. You were brave to stop. You do not need to fix everything. Adults will fix this. She offered a clean handkerchief from her pocket. It was simple and white. Isla took it and wiped her hands. Her breathing slowed. The street vendor saw what was happening and relaxed. He waved away the apology. He said accidents happen. He gave Isla a small pastry bag and told her it was on the house. Kindness moved from one person to another like a chain of small lights turning on. They walked back together. Isla kept glancing at Alvaro. She looked shy and sorry and proud all at once. She asked if she had ruined anything. Alvaro said nothing was ruined. He said seeing her was like the sun finding his window after a long winter. His voice shook. He did not hide it. Back at the theater, the light problem was fixed. The room buzzed. Again, the manager met them at the door. He was ready to speak about rules. Then he saw Isla, with her wet shoes and the pastry bag. He paused. He changed direction. He said they had just enough time for a run-through if everyone stayed focused. He gave Alvaro a second seat without a word. The rehearsal began. The first number was a group piece with children in bright shirts. They moved like a flock, unsure at first, then steady. The second piece was a solo. It was Isla's. She stood at center stage and looked down at her shoes. She adjusted one lace. She swallowed. The room was quiet. Anna saw the nerves rise, like a wave behind Isla's eyes. She knew that look. It was the moment when the mind tells a cruel story, and the body believes it. She moved to the aisle and lifted her hand, palm out, not to stop, but to say, "I am here." Keanu stayed near the tech desk and nodded toward the light operator. He asked for a warm, soft wash on the center. He said it would feel like late afternoon sunlight. The operator understood. The music began. It was not loud. It had a beat like a careful heart. Isla took one step, then another. She missed the third. Her foot slipped where a mark on the floor was glossy. She wobbled. A murmur moved through the chairs. Anna did not rush to the stage. She pressed her hand a little higher and called, clear and steady, "Start from the last clean step." It was a simple direction. It did not carry shame. It gave Isla a place to stand. Isla nodded. She moved back 2 steps. She began again. This time the turn found her. Her body remembered the count. Her arms followed the air and then led it. The room leaned forward as if pulled by a string tied gently to the sternum. The last shape was strong and still. The music stopped, but the quiet sound that followed felt like more than applause. It felt like relief and pride and the release of a breath that had been held for weeks. Alvaro did not clap first. He put his hands over his face. He took 1 second to pray, or to thank the past, or to forgive it. Then he clapped with all the softness a grandfather can hold. The manager looked at his clipboard as if it had given him bad advice. He shook his head and smiled. He walked over and told Isla that the spot on the floor would be covered with a fresh tape mark before the show. He told her she had good recovery. It was the best praise because it saw the mistake and the strength together. After the run, there was a break. Children ate snacks. Parents took photos that were blurry in the low light, but perfect anyway. Anna and Keanu found a quiet corner with Alvaro and Isla. The pastry bag was now empty. The handkerchief was folded, clean again somehow, though no one had washed it. "Thank you," Isla said. Her voice was small, but sure. "I got scared when the bottles broke. I thought it was my fault because I was near it. Then I could not move. Then I thought I would be late, and I would ruin the rehearsal. Then I saw you. You looked calm. I felt calm too." Anna smiled. "That calm is yours," she said. "You found it. We only reminded you it was there." Keanu nodded. "Sometimes the bravest step is the next small one," he said. "You took it." Alvaro looked at them, and then at his granddaughter. He said there was something else he should tell them. His voice dropped. He said, "Ilza's mother was working 2 jobs, and could not come tomorrow. He said she wanted to be there, but could not lose the shift. He said there might be no one to sit with Isla before the performance, to hold her bag, to tie her other lace. If the knot stuck." He did not say it like a complaint. He said it like the weather. It hurt, but it was true. Anna and Keanu did not say they were busy. They did not say they had plans, or calls, or meetings. They looked at each other, and in that look, there was a simple agreement. "We will be here," Anna said. "We will help you get ready. We will sit where you can see us," Keanu said. "If you get scared, look at us. We will look back." Isla nodded, and something in her shoulders let go. Alvaro put a hand on his chest. He did not cry this time. He breathed like a person who had been given 1 more hour of light before the sun went down. They walked out together when the rehearsal ended. The evening had a gold edge. Traffic hummed. A street musician played a tune that made the moment feel like a scene that would matter later, even if no one filmed it. At the corner, Anna bought 4 cups of tea from a small cart and passed them around. The steam rose between them like a thin veil lifting. And then the twist came, gentle but clear. A young woman with a press badge approached. She had seen them in the park. She had seen them in the theater. She asked if she could write a story. She said people needed good news. She promised to make It about the community, and the performance, and the kindness of strangers. She asked for quotes. Anna glanced at Keanu. Keanu glanced at Alvaro. Isla stared at her shoes. The choice sat there, asking for shape. It was not about attention, it was about care. Please, Alvaro said, not yet. Tomorrow is for her dance. After that, you can tell the story any way you like, but please keep the name small and the music big. The reporter listened. She nodded. She put her notebook away. She said she would come tomorrow with a ticket she had already bought. She said she would clap like a proud aunt and keep her camera in her bag. She said sometimes the best way to tell a story is to wait until it has had its first ending. They said goodbye and walked in 3 directions. Anna and Keanu did not speak for a block. They did not need to. The city moved around them. A bus hissed. A child laughed at a dog that tried to chase a leaf. The night felt full, like a cup that would not spill, even if held with one hand. When they reached the corner where they would part, Anna stopped. Tomorrow we show up early, she said. We bring extra hairpins and water and a sewing kit for anything that breaks. Keanu smiled. And a new pair of flat laces, he said, for the shoe that sticks. And a spare ribbon, Anna added. Yellow. Yellow, he agreed. They did not hug or pose or make a scene. They just stood there for a second. 2 people who had decided that kindness was better when it was planned, not just felt. Then they turned and walked away. Behind them, the theater. Lights dimmed to sleep. Somewhere inside, a small piece of tape now covered the glossy mark on the floor. Somewhere in the park, a delivery man told his friend about a girl with a yellow ribbon who did not cry when the bottles broke. Somewhere, in a quiet apartment, a mother counted tips and hours, and wondered if her daughter would be brave tomorrow. And somewhere in a small room, a grandfather folded a white handkerchief and placed it next to a paper with the words, "Showtime" written in careful blue ink. The city kept its secrets for one more night. Morning would ask for courage again, and they would be there to answer. The morning of the performances. Morning air felt sharp, as if the city itself had been washed clean overnight. Anna woke early, long before her alarm. The sun had only just started painting the edges of the curtains in pale gold. She made coffee, sat at her small kitchen table, and let the warmth of the cup rest in her hands. She kept thinking of Is's face from yesterday, the way fear had frozen her, and how quickly it had melted once she knew someone was there for her. Anna was not someone who usually made plans with strangers. Her world was too full, too chaotic, and sometimes too self-protective. But this felt different. She had promised to be there, and that promise felt like more than a polite gesture. It felt necessary. Across the city, Keanu was also awake early. He had gone for a slow walk before the streets got noisy. He had a small bag slung over his shoulder with a few things he thought they might need: a spare pair of laces, a sewing kit, a water bottle, and a yellow ribbon he had found in a tiny fabric store on the corner. The shop owner had smiled when he bought it, asking if it was for a little girl. He had simply said, yes, for someone who deserves it. At the same time, Alvaro was carefully ironing a simple white shirt. He wanted to look neat for Isla, not because appearances mattered to him, but because he knew she would look for him in the crowd. He wanted her to see someone who was proud and ready. He kept glancing at the folded paper with the show's start time, making sure he would leave early enough to find his seat without rushing. Isla, however, was sitting on the edge of her bed, feeling the nervous flutter in her stomach. She had put on her costume once already that morning, just to make sure everything was right. Her mother had kissed her forehead before leaving for work, whispering, "Shine for me today." The words stayed in her ears like a soft song. She had checked her dance shoes 3 times, tying and retying the laces, and thought of the new ones Keanu had promised. She didn't know if he would really bring them, but the thought made her smile. By mid-morning, Anna and Keanu met at a small cafe near the theater. They didn't sit inside. They stayed at an outdoor table where they could see the street and keep their hands warm on paper cups of tea. They spoke in low voices about the day. "She'll be nervous," Anna said, staring into the steam from her cup. "Nerves mean it matters," Keanu replied. "But we can make sure she's not alone in it." Anna nodded, and Alvaro too. "He hides it well, but yesterday, that was more than worry. It felt like he's been carrying something heavy for a long time. Maybe today lightens it," Keanu said. They finished their tea and headed to the theater when they arrived. The backstage area was alive with the hum of voices, the rustle of costumes, and the faint scent of hairspray and stage makeup. Children moved in small groups, practicing steps or stretching. Parents fussed over hems and hairpins. In the middle of it all, Isla stood with her bag at her feet, glancing around as if looking for someone. The moment she saw them, her whole posture changed. She straightened, her shoulders relaxing, her mouth curling into a small smile. "You came," she said, almost like she had doubted it. "We promised," Anna replied, handing her a small bag. Inside were the new laces, neatly coiled, and the yellow ribbon, smooth and bright. Isla took them carefully, as if they were more than just cloth. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu knelt and began unlacing her worn shoes. "Let's get these on before you start warming up," he said. His hands moved with patience, not rushing, even though the room buzzed with preparation. While they worked, Anna checked the rest of Isla's things. The costume was fine, but one of the seams looked a little loose. She pulled a small sewing kit from her own bag and fixed it in quick, neat stitches. "There," she said softly. "No stage lights will see this, but it'll hold." Alvaro arrived a few minutes later, his white shirt crisp, his hair neatly combed. He carried a small paper bag from the bakery pastries for after the show. He greeted Anna and Keanu with quiet gratitude in his eyes, and then looked at his granddaughter, as if trying to memorize her exactly as she was in that moment. When the stage manager called for the first run-through, the energy shifted. Children lined up in the wings, and the house lights dimmed slightly. Isla was in the second group to perform, and while she waited, she kept glancing at the audience area. Ina and Keanu stayed where she could see them, giving small nods of reassurance. Her run-through went well, but there was a moment, a small one, when she looked like she might lose her balance again. She recovered so quickly that most people wouldn't have noticed, but Ina saw it. Keanu saw it too. It wasn't a mistake, exactly, but it was a reminder. The nerves were still there, just under the surface. Afterward, they didn't crowd her with praise. Instead, they gave her a moment to breathe, and then Keanu said, "See that spot? You fixed it before it could grow. That's a skill." Isla nodded, absorbing the words like they were part of her training. Then came the break before the real performance. The theater filled slowly, rows of seats taken by friends, family, and strangers who had come to see local talent. The air thickened with the kind of anticipation that makes every whisper sound louder. Alvaro sat in his seat near the front, clutching the bakery bag. Anna and Keanu stayed backstage with Isla, helping her keep calm while the first few acts went on. But halfway through the show, a voice came over the headset for the stage manager, a quiet, urgent voice. Anna couldn't hear the exact words, but she caught fragments. "Lighting glitch, back row, dangerous if," and then the rest was lost under the sound of applause for the act on stage. The stage manager's face tightened. He left quickly. Toward the lighting booth. Anna and Keanu exchanged a glance. Neither said it out loud, but they both knew something was about to test this night, and not just for Ayla. The stranger in the back row's house lights rose slowly after Illa's performance, washing the theater in a soft golden glow. People were still clapping as the stage crew prepared for the next act. But in the farthest row, almost hidden in the shadows, a woman stood without joining in the applause. She was watching Isla with a stillness that felt different from the rest of the crowd, not detached, but deeply focused, as if the girl on stage was the only person in the room. Ina noticed her first. From her spot in the wings, she could see the woman's face in fragments, dark eyes, the faint trace of a smile, but also something heavier, a weight that pulled at her expression. When the curtain fell for intermission, the audience began to scatter toward the lobby. The woman stayed in her seat for a moment, then slipped quietly into the aisle, moving with a careful pace, almost hesitant. Keanu saw her too. Something about her walk caught his attention, not the way she moved, but the way she seemed to be holding herself back, as if every step was a decision. He glanced at Anna, and she gave a small nod, silently agreeing they should follow. In the lobby, the air was filled with chatter, the smell of coffee, and the rustle of programs. Isla was backstage, surrounded by children congratulating her, but Anna and Keanu kept their eyes on the woman as she moved toward a quiet corner near the exit. "Excuse me," Anna said gently, approaching her. "Were you here for someone in the show?" The woman turned, startled. Up close, her face was more lined than it had seemed from afar, and her eyes were tired in a way that spoke of long nights and too many unspoken words. She hesitated, then said softly, "I was here for Isla." Anna froze for half a second. "You know her?" The woman's gaze shifted to the floor. "I'm her mother." The words landed like a sudden shift in the air. Keanu stepped closer, his voice careful. "Alvaro said you couldn't be here tonight? That you had to work?" The woman's lips pressed together. "I was supposed to, but when I left for my shift, something inside me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't not see her." She looked toward the stage door, her eyes glistening. "I just didn't want her to see me in the back and think I was judging her. I wanted to watch her without adding to her nerves." Hannah's heart pulled in two directions, the relief of knowing Ila's mother had come, and the ache of realizing the distance between them was more than just physical. "She'd want to know you were here," Anna said softly. The woman shook her head. "Not yet. Tonight is her night. I don't want to make it about me. Please, don't tell her. Just tell her someone in the back was proud of her." Keanu studied her for a moment, then asked, "What will you do after the show?" She hesitated. The answer caught somewhere between hope and fear. "Go back to work, and maybe figure out how to come to the next one without hiding." Anna glanced toward the stage door. "She's strong," she said, "but even strong kids need to see the people they love in the light, not in the shadows." The woman's eyes filled, but she gave a small nod. "One day," she whispered, "they didn't push her. They simply let her slip away into the evening crowd, carrying her quiet pride with her." Backstage, Isla still didn't know her mother had been there. She was sitting beside Alvaro, eating one of the pastries he had brought, her laughter brighter now than before. Anna and Keanu joined them, choosing not to mention the woman in the back, at least not yet. But Anna knew this was not the end of that story. Some truths wait for the right moment, and when it came, it could change everything for Isla. And as the show neared its finale, something else began to unfold, a twist no one in the room could have expected. The twist during the final intermission ended with the usual shuffle of feet and the hum of conversation fading back into expectant silence. Isla had finished her performance, but she and the other performers were now gathering for the grand finale, a group number where every dancer would take the stage together. It was meant to be light, joyful, the kind of ending that sent the audience home smiling. Anna stood near the wing, helping a younger child fix a crooked headband. Keanu leaned against the side wall, his hands in his pockets, watching the organized chaos as children lined up in their spots. Alvaro sat in the same front row seat, holding the bakery bag on his lap like a treasure he wasn't ready to open. As the music swelled, the curtain lifted, revealing a stage full of color and movement. Dancers spun and laughed, the choreography simple enough to let them enjoy it without the weight of perfection. Isla was near the center, her yellow ribbon flashing like sunlight each time she turned. And then it happened. Halfway through the song, one of the smaller children, a boy no older than 8, slipped on a stray sequin that had fallen from another costume. It wasn't a hard fall, but he landed on his side, startled and embarrassed. The choreography moved on without him, and for a split second, he stayed frozen, unsure if he should get up or run off stage. Before any adult could react, Isla stepped out of formation. She didn't look at the audience. She didn't check if the stage manager was watching. She simply walked to the boy, offered her hand, and helped him to his feet. But she didn't stop there. Instead of rushing back to her spot, she adjusted their steps so they could rejoin the group together. She matched her pace to his, kept her smile steady, and never once looked away from him until he found his rhythm again. The audience noticed. The applause, which had been polite before, swelled like a wave. People weren't clapping for the choreography anymore. They were clapping for what had just happened. Anna felt her chest tighten. She knew that choice. It was the same choice Isla had made yesterday, in the park, when she had stopped for the bottles instead of walking past. Only this time, she hadn't frozen. She had acted. Keanu single quotes' voice was low, almost to himself. She's not just dancing anymore. She's leading. The finale ended with everyone in a wide arc, holding hands for the bow. Isla was still, next to the little boy, and when the group took their step forward, his small hand was wrapped tightly in hers. The curtain fell to roaring applause. Backstage, the dancers rushed off, chattering and laughing. The boy's mother found Isla and knelt to thank her, tears in her eyes. "He was so scared," she said, "but you made him feel like he belonged up there." Isla shrugged as if it was nothing. "He did belong there," she replied. "Everyone does." Alvaro hugged her next, his voice breaking. "You danced beautifully, but tonight, you showed more than steps." Anna knelt beside them, smiling. "That," she said, "was the most important part of the whole show." Keanu placed the bakery bag on the table and opened it, passing the pastries around like a quiet celebration. But even in the joy of that moment, Anna couldn't shake the thought of the woman in the back row. She wondered if she'd seen the finale, if she'd watched her daughter lead with kindness and felt something shift inside her. She didn't have to wonder for long, as the crowd outside began to thin. A folded piece of paper was slipped under the backstage door. There was no name, no signature, just a short message, in neat, careful handwriting. "She doesn't know I was here, but I saw her. I'll be there in the light next time." Anna read it twice before showing Keanu. They didn't tell Isla right away. Some moments, they knew, were better saved for when the heart was ready. And that night still had one more moment waiting. A moment that would bring all of them together in a way none of them had planned. In the light at last, theater was almost empty now. The smell of hairspray and stage makeup lingered in the air, mixing with the faint sweetness from the pastries. Costume racks stood in quiet rows, the sound of children laughing fading as they left with their families. Isla sat on a wooden bench, still in her costume, swinging her legs gently. Her yellow ribbon was a little loose now, the edges fraying from the night's movement, but she didn't seem to care. Alvaro sat beside her, one arm draped around her shoulders. Anna and Keanu stood a few steps away, giving them space, speaking. In quiet tones, Anna glanced at the folded note on the table. She still hadn't told Isla, but she kept thinking of the words, "I'll be there in the light next time." She wondered if next time could be sooner than that. The stage door creaked open. A figure stood in the doorway, hesitant, as if the simple act of stepping inside took all the courage she had. It was Isla's mother. She was still in her work clothes, her hair pulled back, but her eyes were bright in a way they hadn't been when Anna saw her earlier. For a moment, no one spoke. Keanu broke the silence gently. "She's here," he said to Anna, almost like a reminder that this wasn't a dream. Anna walked to the woman, lowering her voice. "You don't have to wait for next time," she said. "She's here now, and she's still in the light." The woman swallowed hard, her hands twisting together. I'm scared she'd be upset that I didn't tell her I was coming. She won't be upset, Anna said softly. She'll be glad. The woman took one deep breath, then stepped forward. The sound of her shoes on the wooden floor made Isla turn her head. At first, there was only confusion in her eyes, but then recognition bloomed, slow and wide. Mama, Isla said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother nodded, and in 2 quick steps, Isla was off the bench and running into her arms. The hug was fierce, the kind that says, I thought maybe you wouldn't be here, but you are, and that changes everything. Alvaro turned away for a moment, wiping his eyes. Anna felt the lump rise in her throat. Keanu crossed his arms, watching quietly, his expression soft but unreadable. I saw you dance, her mother whispered into Isla's hair. I saw you help that boy. I saw you keep going when the lights went out. I was so proud. I thought my heart would burst. Isla pulled back just enough to look at her. Why didn't you tell me you were here? Her mother's face trembled. I thought I'd make you nervous. I thought maybe I didn't deserve to be in the front row. But I was wrong. I should have been here from the start. Isla looked at her for a long moment, then shook her head with a small smile. You're here now. That's what matters. They hugged again, and this time it was lighter, not desperate, but steady, like something that could last. Alvaro stood and joined them, placing a hand on his daughter's shoulder. Next time, he said, with a quiet laugh, you'll sit with me. We'll both be there when she dances. Anna and Keanu exchanged a glance, a small, satisfied glance that said they knew this night had been about more than a performance. The 4 of them walked out, together, into the cool night air. The street was quiet, the glow from the theater marquee casting a soft light over them. Isla still held her mother's hand. The yellow ribbon fluttered in the breeze, catching the light in brief flashes as they reached the corner. Keanu pulled something from his pocket and handed it to Isla, a second yellow ribbon, still neatly folded. For the next time, he said. And for the times after that? Isla grinned and tucked it into her bag. Next time, she said, looking up at her mother. I want you in the front row so I can see you when I bow. Her mother's eyes shone. I'll be there, she promised. In the light, they walked on, the 4 of them moving slowly, not because they were tired, but because none of them wanted the night to end too quickly. And somewhere behind them, the theater lights dimmed, but for Isla, the light would never be far again, not as long as she knew where to look.